Yeah.
You're not coming in?
No, he told me he's coming in by Zoom.
okay.
From Sacramento or something.
Got it.
Big crowd waiting for us.
Yeah.
Tom, and your items make reference to the written correspondence we received. One for the Nipro and one for Casanova. You have this?
Well, it's 3:30, so why don't we get our meeting underway? We'll start with call to order and roll call, please.
Commissioner Burling?
Here.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Here.
Commissioner Mickey?
Here.
Chair Myers?
Here.
Commissioner Sowers?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll begin our meetings with public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern, not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comments shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission. Matters not appearing on commission's agenda will not receive action at this meeting, but may be referred to staff for a future meeting. Persons are not required to give their names, but it is helpful for speakers to state their names so that they may be identified in the minutes of the meeting. So first I'll look to chambers to see if there's anyone that would like to make a public appearance. It doesn't appear so. And then we'll go ahead and take it to Zoom. Looks like we've got Shirley Moon's hand up. Hello there, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley Moon with Carmel Cares. I just had 3 quick updates for you regarding Forest Theater, Scenic Pathway, and Carmel Beach. Dale had asked me to let you know that the project at Forest Theater is still moving forward. They're working out some details for the next phase of improvements, but they are on track, and it's going to be a great improvement. The plants that were planted some months ago are thriving and continue to transform the space. It's really lovely. Scenic Pathway, as of today, has new signage on the trash cubby marquees. The marquees, you may recall from going down there, are made out of mahogany. They're solid mahogany and handmade. And the signage was installed today. It's a dark green background with a very simple message to help, asking people to help keep Carmel Beach clean. So we think they're very handsome against the mahogany wood. Hope you like it too. The Carmel Beach update is we are still having illegal fires that leave charcoal on the unfortunately beautifully cleaned sand. And that charcoal then is used as a tool for graffiti on the sandstone. We are still trying to build out our pickup posse team for the beach as the trash is constant, and particularly with the increased visiting that's coming up, we're hoping we can get more volunteers to sign up. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Shirley. The Forest Theater is... Okay.
Shirley, are you there?
She
Shirley?
put herself back on mute.
Never mind, I'll ask her later.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you, Sarah.
Oh, okay, let me turn them. when we saw those, when I mentioned to you that there was someone with a fire at 13th.
Yeah,
There was
yes.
also someone at 12th with a fire, the same thing, briquette. And the police car was right there, and I stopped and told him about it. Are they involved in this at all? I had the impression that he could have cared less, is what I was going to say. He didn't go down or do anything about it.
If I see a fire or we see any wood-burning fires, we do call the police, and the experience I've had is that they do come out, but it's a little bit difficult for them unless they've seen the people light the fire. But they do come and ask them to put it out.
Okay.
I don't know what the different policies are. It depends on, who's in charge there,
Okay,
really.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Sorry.
again, Shirley. Just commenting, I imagine all of us have been by the Forest Theater, and the grounds are quite lovely. And I did notice those signs on Scenic Pathway, and they're also quite nice addition to the path. So thanks for that. Thanks for the update on Carmel Cares. Is there anyone else from Zoom that would like to make a public appearance? It doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go ahead and close public appearances and then move on to announcements. Announcements?
Me? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 announcements, all pretty quick. The first one is why we met today at 2:30 here, council chambers. For those who've been on the commission for a while, the past practice before COVID was to do just like we did today, meet here first at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, depending on how many items in the tour of inspection. Chime in, do the roll call, go out, then adjourn to go out in the field, and then come back here. During COVID, to minimize person-to-person contact, we got into the pattern of going out in the field first. And so now that COVID is winding down, hopefully, the last couple of meetings, we a little bit bent our Forest and Beach Commission bylaws, because we're supposed to be gaveling in here first and then going out. So we made that course correction for today, and we'll continue to do so. However, the Planning Commission recently just changed their bylaws to allow them to meet in the field first. So the bylaws doesn't have to go through a rigorous process. So the next month or two, Tom and I, we can take that back to the commission to review the bylaws and make a simple edit and a majority vote on the commission, and you can go ahead and meet out in the field if that's what you want to do. Okay? It gives you that option. So we'll come back at a future date. Second, the city forester update. I'm not at liberty to make names. However, there is a candidate who we made the offer. That person accepted. He or she accepted. It's either a he or she. Accept the position. Working on the background check. As soon as possible, we will have an official announcement, whether it's hopefully before the next commission meeting, but we'll get the word out. The intent is to start that person on July 1st, possibly, or July 16th. So that's the game plan. So we're close. And the third announcement is, public hearing item number 2, tree permit application 23051 located northeast corner of Guadalupe and Ocean Avenue has been withdrawn by the applicant. So for those who are in the audience or on Zoom who are here for that particular item, the item has been withdrawn. Although it's on the agenda to make it official that it's withdrawn. That's all I got.
Okay, are there any other announcements? Doesn't appear so, so we'll go ahead into the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and/or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions. The only thing on our consent agenda is number 1, approve the May 11th, 2023 meeting minutes. Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes.
I second that.
It's been seconded.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey?
Yes.
Chair Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay, so then we'll jump right into public hearings, in that the number 2 is been withdrawn. We will go to number 3, the approval or denial of the removal of one significant Santa Lucia fir tree at Casanova Street, 2 southeast of Palau Avenue, and I'll hand that over to you, Director.
I'll turn that over to Mr.
Can I make just one comment on this? I think I was hearing on a number of these site visits today that noticing was not being done in a timely fashion for people to be able to respond to the potential action by this commission. And again, we've gone and visited the sites, but I'm a little concerned that noticing is not being done in a timely fashion for neighbors to respond.
That, yes, you heard correctly. That is an expressed concern. If we could, let's address it with Junipero where it's most applicable.
Okay.
Okay, but yes, we intend to make note of that as well.
I think it also came up in this one too, right? We would have liked to attend, but
Right, but they didn't get notice in a timely fashion, and so they weren't able to attend the meeting.
You want to do that now, or you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so be happy to address that. So the code reference to posting public notices on property, it's in Chapter 12. It's 1228-205, which indicates notice of public hearing shall be posted in a conspicuous place on or immediately adjacent to the subject property. It does not make a time reference. Now, typically, we post it 72 hours in advance, which is, in other words, the day of the publishing of the agenda, which is the Monday of the week of the commission meeting. We typically are able to do that before close of business. As you know, sometimes we have cases that come up that folks indicate are an emergency, and we were unable to post it that same day. Now, it wasn't a requirement, nor was it in the code, nor was it in the Forest and Beach Rules of Procedure. It's our customary practice to post it on Mondays of the week of the meeting. However, this week we posted it the following day, the very following day. So there was 48 hours notice as opposed to the normal common 72 hours, but they were posted 2 days ago on Tuesday.
Are cards, in much the way the Planning Commission does for building plan design, cards going out to neighbors within 500, is that similar on the issues around,
sounds like
not at all? So
No.
it's just the posting of it?
Correct. Along with that, it has been, folks had suggested that, notices be codified or recommended. Of course, Forestry is willing to hear any recommendation that we think will improve our practices. So if that's something that is up for discussion at some point, we'd of course love to hear that.
But just to clarify, it sounds like there is not a non-compliance issue at this juncture based on where the code is presently written.
That's correct.
Okay, that's okay.
If I could just interrupt, if I could just remind everyone to please speak into your microphone and make sure that's right in front of you, because it's really hard for people in Zoom to hear.
Wait, what'd you say? Okay.
Moving
so
on to public hearing number one.
Have we addressed? Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. So the first public hearing that we will take a look at today is regarding the approval or denial of one significant Santa Lucia fir, as Commissioner Chairman Myers had brought up. The background on this one is that the applicant, Leung Lim, had submitted an application for the removal of this tree. It is on private property, and it is to accommodate new construction. Justin Nono had evaluated this tree. Oh, pardon me. The former city forester had evaluated this tree and deemed it to be significant. There are evidence of pests or disease affecting the tree. It was rated as in poor condition. And therefore, the recommendation by the city is to approve the removal of this double stem tree with the, as well as to replant one upper canopy tree on the property.
Okay, is the applicant online or not in chamber, so online, and would care to make a statement? Okay, it doesn't appear so.
Pardon me, Chairman Myers, I apologize, but I had forgotten to indicate that this was one of the public hearings where, I know that it had been previously referenced, but I didn't want to forget to reference that there was an email where, that everyone has a copy of here, from one of the neighbors, in case I needed to mention that.
Okay, got it, thanks. Does anyone from the commission first have any questions about what were presented here from Tom?
So I've just got one question, and just for clarification, is that, again, not only just this tree issue, but in another one that we're going to address as well tonight. My question revolves around the decisions that we're being asked to make pre-planning commission related plans when we're dealing with either new construction or remodeling or whatever, and we're being asked to make decisions on trees prior to plans being approved or reviewed by planning commission. And I kind of feel like why are we getting ahead of planning on this for making decisions about trees that may not even be relevant, given the planning commission's ultimate decisions on design guidelines or design approvals? It just seems like we may be spinning our wheels here a little bit if we make a decision and then that doesn't conform with the way planning envisions their approval on the design function of either a remodel or a new home build. And that's in a couple cases here that we're dealing with, and I feel like we're jumping the gun ahead of planning. And I'm just asking the question, why are we even a part of this process without planning being kind of the first to go?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question, Commissioner Sowers. This is an important topic that has come up before, and I think a good example for our newer commissioners to understand this. It is an iterative process. I don't know if this particular application went to the Planning Commission yet, but it certainly went before the Planning Department. There has been a long-standing question of, do we go to Forest and Beach first about the trees and then go to the Planning Commission to approve a design, or vice versa? Sometimes it goes back and forth, and it could. This time, this commission could say, we don't have enough information about the planning of the building application to make a final decision about this tree. To suffice it to say that there was an application submitted to the planning and their building department, which is kind of one and the same, and that it was sent to Public Works to see if this commission would resolve the tree issue. If the commission decides, let's remove the tree, which is your right to make that decision, then we go back to the applicant. You may proceed with the design that meets all the building codes and standards and all that kind of stuff. If the commission decides, no, do not, go back to the drawing board, modify the design of the house to save the tree, you could do that also. And that's been the case on prior commission rulings in the past. Then it goes back to planning, and then they work with the applicant to see if they could redesign the building. And we've had architects here in the past showing, well, here's one option, one second option. They looked at several different options, and they can't possibly miss the tree, or sometimes they have made some revisions to miss the tree. So there's not one rule fits all. In this particular case, there was an application. We looked at the quality of the tree. The city arborist made the recommendation to remove the tree because of its condition. But again, it doesn't, this commission decides whether or not to have the tree removed or potentially preserve it and have the applicant potentially revise their design if they can. Does that answer the question, mostly? Half?
Mostly.
Half?
Half. Probably half.
Half.
In this particular instance, the planner did request that they submit this tree application prior to it going back to planning.
Oh, okay. That's helpful. Okay.
It's an unhealthy tree for farmers.
Justin Ono had actually mentioned in his final, or last sentence, that the tree does not, is not a long-term asset in the urban forest and is not healthy enough to consider changing construction plans around. So in this particular one, although we have another one that might be different, it seems as though that was addressed.
Yeah, just because one of the neighbors had mentioned in the context of this particular issue about the oaks on the property and their
Right.
concern about, the preservation of those and the importance of those in the net of this. So, I mean, again, whether or not
It's
those
not
are
per-
relevant and pertinent to
Yeah,
what
I
our
was
decision
curious
is.
about why
really
that
is
was
not.
mentioned, because they're not looking at,
The application has nothing to
has
do
nothing
with
to do
the
with
oak
the oaks.
trees.
They were maybe just concerned that that might be a factor at some point or something, but that's not, we're not looking at that, so,
Sure.
okay.
But the planner didn't submit anything to this effect. This is just something that's communicated verbally to you.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see, any other questions from the commission? We'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would care to speak to this? In chambers, doesn't look like it. And let's see, online, I don't see any hands coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Would someone care to open this?
Given what we've gotten from the city, I'm in agreement that the tree probably should be removed.
I'd second that motion.
Well, that was a motion.
Yes.
No discussion. Well, there's a motion and there's a second. Don't know if it warrants any additional discussion, but I'm going to just state my piece about it. I don't, similar to the question of why we're looking at this when plans have not been approved, I would challenge the notion that we should allow trees to be removed off the property. I find it really interesting and confusing to me that our previous forester looked at this tree, identified it as significant, and didn't make any comment to its lack of health. In fact, I recall actually being on property with her looking at this tree. Those of us that were a part of it at the time, all of us were there. And looking at the tree with my own eye, it doesn't appear to be in this dire straits that it's being, and I'm certainly not questioning our Justin Ono's opinion about it, but it didn't feel that it was so far along. And when I look at the plans that are here, you look at where tree 14 is, which is the tree in question, and all we're talking about is a stairway, an entry that will go into the home. So this tree would sit to the side of that. And similar to some previous instances where we look at tree removal before plans are completed or done, sometimes I feel like potential residents, so owners of property, they lose the vision of what it's going to feel like once their house is completed and having that tree there or that tree gone. And in this instance, I looked at that tree and walked along looking at it, and I'm like, this tree looks perfectly good, and it would be probably pretty nice if I'm walking up the stairs to have this as the buffer between the house next to me. And I know we have a motion and a second. I'm here to say my preference would have been to defer this to a later date once the plans are approved and allow the homeowner to come back without having to request an additional application fee. That would have been my opinion and position on this. But we have a motion and a second, so if we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
I just have a question. Is our discussion completed?
Well, I didn't know if anyone
No,
else
we
had
have to
anything
move
else to say.
forward. We have to move forward with the motion and the roll call vote.
We need to go forward with the roll
Yes.
call?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Commissioner Mickey,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
No.
Commissioner Sowers,
No.
What's the end result?
3-2.
yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but
Pass
she's supposed to say
3-2.
it for the record.
3-2, yes.
So the motion passes 3 to 2.
Yes, pass.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Let's continue on with public hearings. The next on our agenda is the approval or denial of the removal of 1 Monterey pine and 3 Monterey cypresses at the southwest corner of Scenic Road and 10th Avenue. And I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Thank you, sir. So starting with the 1 pine, tall pine on the left side of the property was deemed to be in poor condition. We had just seen that there was, the dying top of the tree. That seemed, well, I don't want to make my own comment, but the commissioners were just on the tour of inspection. There was also a photo of that tree as well as the others for the 3 cypress trees, city cypresses. The applicant had cited potential danger to people and surrounding property as the reasons for the removal, according to the applicant's narrative, as well as a limb from one of these 3 cypresses had reportedly fallen onto the applicant's property during one of the storms, I believe in March. So for the 3 cypress trees, for Justin Ono's assessment, he had recommended trimming the dead wood from cypresses 2 and 3, and also conducting an in-depth aerial assessment to check for cracks or defects that may not be visible from the ground. The city currently does not have a drone. The arborist presumably was indicating that it may be of benefit to assess the tree further from aerial view. For the last cypress tree, which is referred to in the report as tree number 4, does have a single stem, also rated as, it has a significant but corrected lean. As these are cypresses along Scenic, they are all 3 considered to be significant trees in the category of significant. In that last tree that I was just referring to, there is evidence that there is good reaction wood that has grown in to reinforce the base of the stem. Again, that's for the one with the corrected lean. And Mr. Ono also recommended the trimming of dead wood from this. In other words, he recommended pruning and also conducting an aerial assessment. And just to reiterate for the recommendation for that pine tree, the first one that we had covered that's in poor condition and dying, the recommendation is removal of that tree.
Anyone from, anyone from the commission have any questions for the material presented?
Yeah, can we divide these up and have each tree figured? I mean, the pine tree is probably more of a slam dunk than anything. So if we could vote on this, talk about the trees separately and vote on them separately. So,
That's certainly your
Got
call.
it. I think when we bring it back, we can open that up for discussion. That sounds like a reasonable suggestion. But specific to the material that's presented here, before we listen to the applicant speak, does anyone have any questions for Tom? Doesn't look like it. So is there someone from the applicant that would care to make a statement? Doesn't look like it here in chambers. And I'm not seeing any hands up online. Do we happen to know?
I see no hands at this time either.
Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and close that opportunity and bring it back to the commission for discussion. I would ask, just based off of our last exchange that we allow for each of us, if you would care to make, have a point of discussion, that we do that before we move forward with the motion. That way, everyone can at least have an opportunity to go back and forth a little bit with it. And with that, is there someone that would like to lead it off with that motion?
But it depends whether we're dividing the trees up or not.
Maybe start with that conversation. Would you like to lead us off with that?
Okay, I'd like to suggest that we take each tree separately since there's different feelings about it. And if we agree to that, then I think the pine is a slam dunk. I walk by it regularly, and I think it's even leaning more. But, so I would move, well, we'll discuss it first then.
It looks as if, is everyone in agreement with the notion that when we actually make a motion that we're going to make, it sounds like we're going to make two different motions? Can we do that for this one specific issue?
Yeah, you could make 4 motions, one for each tree, or
Okay,
whatever
so
number
it
you
could
want
be
to.
4? Does that, I just want to make sure procedurally that that's allowed?
May I suggest
Oh, good.
that you make a motion, a second, and take a roll call for tree number 1, which is kind of in a different category, and deliberate on trees 2, 3, and 4, which are kind of grouped together, and then decide at that point
Okay.
if you want to vote one at a time or
Okay.
3 as a bunch.
So I think that's a good suggestion. We understand what Commissioner Burling's position is, and I think it sounds like collectively we're in agreement, but let's continue the discussion. And why don't we discuss the pine first? That you expressed your thoughts on it pretty clearly. Is there any other thoughts around the tree number 1, which is, again, the Monterey pine? 6, right smack dab in the middle of that pathway. Doesn't look like there's any other discussion around that tree. I would be, I'm of like mind. It does appear to be of age, and I'm reading through our forest, for Justin Ono, sorry, our registered consultant arborist, his recommendation, and it seems sensible enough to me. I imagine there's going to be some fast skateboarders coming down that pathway once that tree's gone, but I guess that'll be another issue, not ours. So with that in mind, was the thought that we're actually going to make a decision and make a motion on this tree? Was our
Boy,
plan?
that would be a great idea.
Great, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to have the pine tree removed.
Second.
So we've got a motion and a second. Do we want to keep moving? Was that the plan, or?
Let's do the roll call for that, and then
Okay.
come back to the cypress.
There we go.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay. And so then we have 3 trees left to discuss, the 3 cypress. Commissioner Burling has suggested that we should perhaps vote on them individually, but why don't we open up a discussion around them and see where we stand? And whoever feels like they'd like to lead it off.
So I'll lead off on this. So my biggest concern is those cypress trees are kind of what makes Scenic Drive and the pathway as attractive, and so I think whatever we can do to save these trees, I would, even the branches themselves can be very attractive in their own way. And so, again, where they're broken and their stem sticking out and it really needs to be trimmed, I think that makes a lot of sense. But if you've got a branch that's bare, but it's attractive to the look of the cypress tree, which is kind of the look of the tree, I would like to, if we could, maintain that. If there isn't any structural damage to them, if it doesn't have any canopy, the wind chances of that grabbing that limb and breaking it and having it be a danger to a pedestrian or even to a car or even a house is probably minimized because of no canopy. So if we could, whether it's tree 2, 3, and 4, I think if we could take that approach from the forestry department to mitigate cutting anything that has, you know, a look that kind of flows with the cypress look of trees, because we've got that going all up and down Scenic as well as on other streets. Cypress is, and I think it's a unique look, and I'd hate to see that gone unless it poses a risk to safety. So that's just kind of an overall statement on those three trees.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Go ahead. Okay.
Just building on that, I'd like to suggest that because of the significance of these trees to the city, that before we would authorize like removal down to the stump, in instances where a removal is preferable due to the health of the tree, for example, that we explore some other options about what we could do. For example, many of them are large enough that they could be cut at the 3-foot height and make a table for picnicking. You know, there was a tree in downtown Los Gatos at the high school that had to come down, and they had someone come in and carve a wild cat, and there is this absolutely stunning cat now that has become iconic for the city as a result where that tree was. So I think to the extent that we could, not just for these particular, not just these, but any of the trees on Scenic that are like this, not just have a removal where it's to the stump, but we come up with some plan when that becomes necessary. Somehow
That's
incorporating it
interesting,
into our city, right?
The feedback I've gotten from practically everybody who I've talked to as we've walked around is how ugly they are and what a bad sample of the cypress they are. The cypress are so beautiful, but they have more greenery usually and coming off at different directions and so on. So I have mixed feelings myself. I like your suggestion, actually, of doing something, if we did take one down. I was worried about number 4. It does lean over towards those people's house, and I know that, I think this is the one that Justin said had a correction direction, but it doesn't look very corrected to me. It looks like it's still leaning over toward the house. And you know, I think, you know, down the road, we need to consider trees that people are afraid of as something to really think about. But, you know, if he thinks it's safe, I don't know.
His
So I'm not making
recommendation
a motion.
presently is to prune all 3 trees, correct, Tom?
That's correct. As well as conduct an aerial assessment for each of them, 3
She
stems.
asked if Justin Ono's recommendation was to prune the cypress, which is what his recommendation was here.
Yeah, right.
right.
That's been-
Commissioner Mitchell?
You need to get your mic a little closer to you.
Okay.
Can it pull over?
I would like to see us preserve all 3 of the trees and try to, as Brian said, just prune them in such a way or shape them, cut off any dead wood that would make them as safe as we possibly could make them and as attractive as we could make them. I think it's heartbreaking to think about cutting them. We had a lot of loss this last winter season, and I think we should try to keep them and just work with them if they're safe, which it appears as though they are safe. And there's very little canopy at this point. If we could just trim them, prune them, and do what we could to keep them, all 3 of them.
I mean, the only thing I do have a concern is on tree number 4 because of that lean, and I know with the winds we had of this last winter, 80-mile-an-hour winds hitting that limb, and that limb looks like if it fell, it would crush that front room of that one house.
Mm-hmm.
My only concern would be, is there any way to cable it to another tree so that if it did take that wind, even if it broke, it would break at half stem and then fall short of the house?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any way to do that. If there is no way to provide any kind of, you know, way to mitigate that fall into that house, I think just from a risk standpoint, I think that tree may be at risk to take out because it will, the winds are coming from the west or the southwest, at least this last winter. And if that, I mean, it took out a lot of trees this last winter. And that tree, if you measured it out, maybe it was from an aerial, even an aerial standpoint, that tree will take out that front room of that house, and that's not a safe, not a safe situation in that, unless you could cable it, so that you cable it, and if it did take the wind, it would have some reinforcement from going in that direction. I don't know.
Guess it wouldn't be too attractive, but is that possible, Tom, to cable?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have a question, which is if the recommendation is from the arborist is that the trees look healthy but just need some pruning, but the recommendation is also to verify and inspect the crowns to confirm, I'm just wondering if we should be, what the cost of that is and if we should be doing that ahead of making a decision. They are important trees.
I can't speak to the cost. Even buying a good quality drone, you're talking $500 to $700, something that the city, I'm just speaking in possibilities that the city could presumably also use for future aerial sites. If you even were to rent a drone, you're still talking about $200, right? So that's the cost. But regarding your other question, I'm not sure that I can.
No, I'm just wondering, is there an arborist that provides this service? Because it sounds like what he's looking for, right, is the caveat to his inspection is a crown, confirming that the crowns are inspected, right?
Yes, I think he would still be the arborist that would review the photos. I think it's just getting the photos.
Well, we could contract, have a different arborist that has a drone. There's other possibilities, but let me shift gears just a second, if I may. Suggestion to consider trees 2 and 3. It sounds like there's consensus to pruning, proper pruning, remove the deadwood or the unsafe branches, keep the branches that look attractive. So maybe perhaps have a motion, consider a motion for 2 and 3 for the pruning. And another suggestion, idea, whatever thought is tree number 4, maybe we need to do a little bit more homework. Can we cable it? Can we, let's re-examine the lean. If it were to fall, would it actually hit the house? Would it hit the front yard? That type of thing. So perhaps we could do a little bit more refinement of tree number 4. This is just, I'm not a commissioner, I'm just trying to get the, get it running, get the thing going.
I think that's a good suggestion.
So I'll make a motion that on.
I don't know why we couldn't bundle it together all the same as that. I mean, meaning that we would go ahead and if whatever the motion would sound like, that the motion is to have 2 and 3 pruned and have 4 taken under further investigation before a decision is made.
I second that. There's a motion.
Sounds good.
Right?
So you,
Yes, that is doable, but if you could go ahead and start from the beginning, starting with the motion.
no problem.
Because that was just your
I didn't get a
example.
chance to share my piece, but the good news is it's in line with everybody else's. So, so I'll make a motion to follow the arborist's advice and properly prune trees number 2 and 3. But number 4 needs further investigation in terms of its stability and safety. So,
And could I amend that motion
You
that we
certainly can.
include the crown assessment that the arborist is recommending for trees 2, 3, and 4?
so there's a friendly amendment to that?
Yeah.
Wait, I don't understand the amendment.
That we are, I think that Chairman Myers is saying that we will prune trees 2 and 3 as recommended by the arborist. The friendly amendment is that we will have the crowns inspected on 2, 3, and 4, which is also recommended by the arborist, and we'll delay a decision on tree 4, pending the crown and exploration of whether cabling is a possibility to maintain that tree.
Or just safety. Safety.
That-
That's a little.
Someone needs to second it.
We've had worse.
long.
Who's second?
I said we don't have it yet. Is there a second?
I'll just second the friendly amendment.
The
Is that
whole
what you're
motion.
Did she second it? I
He
think
did
she
it
just made a
before
friendly
they-
amendment.
she had-
Yeah, she made a friendly amendment. I think
Yep.
that needs to be seconded.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's doing that?
Who's doing that? That's what I asked. Who's doing that?
Well, a friendly amendment could go away for lack of a second, but it remains to be seen what happens.
I mean,
I
I'll second the.
There we go.
Okay, so we have a second to the
As a
friendly
friendly,
amendment.
second.
Do you want to read that back?
Do you want me to read
She's
it?
going to quit.
Don't give her any
Back
ideas.
to you after I listen to it in the minutes.
Give her any-
No. Do you want me to read it back?
No, does everybody feel like they're clear? on
Yeah,
it? Okay, then we'll take a roll call.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Pazowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay. And then we'll go ahead and continue on with public hearings. The last one for today.
I guess just as a clarification, can we have, when tree 4 comes back up, I guess this would be directed to Tom, when tree 4 comes back, can we also, the Crown reports on all 3 be shared with the commission?
Yes.
Everybody good? Okay, great. So we'll now consider the approval or denial of the removal of one significant eucalyptus and one non-significant Japanese maple at Unipro Street 3, northeast of 12th Avenue. Back over to you, Tom.
Thank you. An applicant by the last name of Zhang had applied to remove one eucalyptus, which is categorized as significant, and one Japanese maple, which was categorized or assessed to be not significant, both of which are on private property and both are in preparation for upcoming construction. Going back to a prior comment at this meeting, this application this permit application, let me get my words here, as part of a design study completeness review letter. This permit application was required for any tree removal. So this was part of already a commission's a design study completeness review letter. So it's
With
already,
the city, you mean? or
pardon me?
With the city?
Yes,
they've already
with the
presented?
planning, yeah, planning and building. So let's see, for these 2 trees, I wanted to go over Justin Ono's assessment. He had stated that the site could benefit from removing both of these trees, which are labeled as number 5 and number 6, and replacing them with 2 upper canopy trees. There are currently no upper canopy trees on the site. There does appear to be adequate space for 2 upper canopy trees. And the reason that Justin Ono had recommended removal of the 2 trees are that if not removed, they could become a fire clearance issue due to their close proximity to the proposed construction.
Has the has the plan been approved to build what they want to build?
Well, I don't want to get my wording wrong here, but my understanding is that this is a condition of the approval, so I don't think that the plans could have been officially approved until this is one of the criteria. So I was inaccurate if I had said that they were officially approved thus far. This seems to be one of the requirements prior to the approval of those plans.
Does anyone else have, I'm sorry, Tom, were you finished?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions from the commissioner or commissioners about what's been presented to us right here? Doesn't look like it. Then is the applicant not here in chambers, online perhaps, and
Yeah, who's
cares
this?
to make a,
You know, I just-
Carolyn Davis, I don't. That doesn't look like it, right?
No one's hand is raised.
No one's hand is raised. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Sorry?
There were 2 comments that were provided to us.
Thank you.
That Director Barbareri and I had wanted to each deliver one of those, one of which is from the neighbors Mark and Dorothy Anayati. Their comments were that they're the neighbors to the south of the property. Their comments were that they would like to see the eucalyptus removed. And they also made a comment, which is part of this application as well, that I should have mentioned anyway. There were 2 trees in the front part of this property that had been removed by the prior owner. I don't mean to make a judgment, but it seems as though this applicant is trying to have the actions of the former owner be correct with the city by including those 2 trees as part of their permit application. So even though those 2 trees that were removed were part of the former owner's decisions and actions, they were included in this permit application. So going back to this neighbor's comments, the neighbor had said that the 2 old trees that were in front of this house were beautiful, mature trees. They just made a statement regarding those trees.
I'd like to make a comment on behalf of the neighbor to the east, behind the property. Her name's Marcia Zelus, Z-E-L-U-S, who was unable to be here as well. Her comment was to please remove the eucalyptus tree, and requested to keep the Japanese maple, because she said it's nice and it affords her some privacy to the property in the back. Those are the public comments.
Okay, thank you. Doesn't look like there's anyone online that would also like to make a public comment, so I'll go ahead and close that and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Anyone care to lead this off?
Well, I think if you open up plans and you look at A3 with position 5, which is the Japanese maple, I mean, I really don't understand necessarily why that needs to be taken out. If you look, there's a patio that they want to put in, and it's kind of, even the Japanese maple's a little off the patio edge. I don't understand even because maples typically are deeper than structural.
Wait, 6 is the maple,
Is
correct?
6 the maple?
6 is the maple, right. 5 is the eucalyptus.
Oh, 5 is
Yeah.
the eucalyptus.
So that's that hillside right there.
But even with 6, if this is what,
Existing.
is this
and
the,
then-
ex- oh, this is the
Yeah, the next
existing
one
one,
is
oh,
the-
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There, it's interesting, in this case, right, we have 2 new construction. The first one, the arborist that we considered today felt the tree was in poor condition and needed to be removed based on the health of the tree. In this case, the same arborist is recommending removal because they're non-native, not because they aren't.
But the eucalyptus
But-
is certainly not native.
Because, right, but non-native and not because they are unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems as though the neighbors, there's consensus that the eucalyptus, if I capture the comments correctly, it seems like there's consensus that the neighbors support the eucalyptus coming down as part of this project, but there's been some expression of resistance to the maple, which is a beautiful tree in the backyard of that property.
I mean, again, I'm struggling with these plans a little bit, and I'm not a planner with the city, but I mean, the setback along that south side of the house seems to be off, and I mean, I don't know if these are approved plans from the city and that setback's right. I mean, I just don't know, and I'm a little concerned because that kind of positions it closer to that maple tree by having that whole line set up against that south setback. I just don't know.
So
If you
it's
look, the north setback is like, way away from the property line, and the south setback is like tiny.
Well, that north setback, just that hillside, right? It looks like it's
No, I'm
7.
talking, the north setback,
This
this
versus
is this
this,
side.
this versus this.
Junipero is right here.
Right, yeah, I'm
The
with you.
north side, you can see there's a lot of room between the structure of the house and the property line. And on the south side, you've got a really tiny setback going all along that south line on the south side of the property. So I don't,
What's it say, 3'2", and then the back is 7'6"?
yeah. Well, the back setbacks typically have to be larger in the city than
Yeah.
the side setbacks. But that seems like a tiny setback along that line, and that's impacting the Japanese maple pretty significantly.
I thought there was a mandatory setback for new construction of 6 feet.
That's what I thought, and I thought it was 9 to 15 feet in the back.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
So I don't know, are these approved plans, or these are just potentially to be reviewed plans?
Yeah, I'm missing the actual application in my
Yeah,
packet.
I don't know if these are a final approved plans.
They're certainly not the final approved plans, because they just haven't been approved yet.
Not stamped by the city. Well, I mean, continuing on about the request for these trees to be removed, I'll share my thoughts. The eucalyptus, we've addressed the eucalyptus in general, overall in the city. The neighbors seem to be in agreement with the removal of it, but I felt like that Japanese maple was quite lovely and certainly provided, again, sometimes I just feel like new homeowners or ones that want to come in and, scrape the lot, they're missing the opportunity to actually build something and enjoy what has been there for a long time. And it'd be hard to replace that right away. So, I mean, I would be of the opinion to go ahead and approve the removal of the eucalyptus and deny the removal of the Japanese maple.
I second.
May I ask a question? No,
Questions?
I can't do friendly amendments.
Yes, you can.
And I think we were potentially deficient in the Casanova Street, but in terms of replanting, part of the staff's recommendation is, if both were to be removed, require replanting of 2 upper canopy trees. What I'm hearing is your tentative, or your motion and your second is remove the eucalyptus, not the Japanese maple, which is a perfectly fine prerogative.
God,
And friendly
I was
amendment to
missing.
add an upper, and friendly amendment to add an
one,
upper
two,
canopy.
I didn't make a
Zero.
motion yet, actually,
Okay.
so I was just talking,
We're all very
I was
excitable
just making a
today.
discussion point.
Very excited. Summer's in the air.
That's okay, mine was friendly.
That's it. Well, I know, that's good. I just am missing the actual, what with this in my packet, so that in mind, if someone, when they go ahead and make a motion, then they perhaps would cite the fact that there is a suggestion to add upper canopies, and
Just one would be fine, since you,
Yeah.
so if someone wants to go ahead and make that motion.
Wait,
No,
You did not make a
I didn't make a
motion?
motion, I was just in discussion.
okay, I thought I heard you say,
I didn't make a motion.
Okay.
Someone said they seconded it, but there wasn't a motion.
say that.
Someone did say it, but there wasn't a motion. It was just, I was just discussing.
Okay, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the removal of the eucalyptus tree number 5, and that we deny the approval of the Japanese maple number 6, and that we add a requirement for 1 upper canopy tree to be planted.
What'd you say about the tree?
I'll second that.
Wait.
That we have
and
one
plant-
upper canopy
Okay,
tree be
yeah.
planted.
And
And I
again,
s- yeah,
but again, aren't there 2 other upper canopies that are already proposed to be put in? Is that already in the plan?
No, that was,
That were removed in the front?
that was
Or
just if you took those 2 trees out.
So this was for the 2 trees that were taken out.
That were taken out by the previous
That
owner?
They
Those
would
are
like
in the
for us to
plan
account for,
To account for those, right?
right.
I don't really.
That's pretty hard when we
How do
don't
we
even
account for
saw
something
them,
that we don't
what
know?
were they?
They can they can plant a tree if
What
they
do
want,
we,
right? They
can
don't
we
need
look at
to-
what we have on the lot? Do they have enough trees on the lot?
Well, is this,
Well, there's a table, of the staff.
on the back, so there's.
okay, we had a second, so I do need to take a vote.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're so strict.
That's perfect, go
I've been
ahead.
guided well.
Yes, right now there's 0 upper canopy and 5 lower canopy,
Right, that's on the.
even with the 2 that
They
were
have what they need.
probably not
Well, that's good
not
enough.
authorized to have been removed.
Well, let's vote for what we,
Okay.
Commissioner Burling,
yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay, well, we've gone ahead and completed our public hearings. Thank you for everyone that's participated. And let's move into orders of business. Orders of business are agenda items that require city council, board, or commission discussion, debate, direction to staff, and/or action. Looks like the first of our orders of business will be the introduction of the Urban Forest Citizens Advisory Group.
Right, and I'd like to,
I would say, just as, sorry for the interruption, you mentioned that we might have missed a requirement for an upper
We're
canopy
fine.
tree planting on the first one.
yeah, the first public hearing, I guess the motion and the approved motion was silent on the requirement for replanting, but staffs, or the city forester, or myself in their absence can enforce, I believe, replanting,
Okay.
as was the intent of the staff report.
Got it, thanks.
I don't think we'd want to reopen the public hearing.
No.
Okay.
But you guys can if you want, but.
You
Well-
just said we missed something, that's why I wanted to
Yeah, we
make sure
did, we did. That first item, we did not talk about replanting. So that's what the chair said. In the future, let's be careful on the motion. Okay, with that, I'd like to, in a minute, I'll introduce Bill Teomina. I hope I pronounced that right. He's on Zoom, and we were really glad to have him here. I spoke to him a couple of times, and a fantastic gentleman, very interesting background. Let me just kind of kick it off with just an overview of what we're talking about. So over the past few months, I think really, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think during the storms of January and March, there was some momentum with a group led by Mr. Teo Mina to, they ended up calling themselves the Citizens Advisory Group. I'm sorry, the Urban Forest Citizens Advisory Group. So they've been meeting, at last count, they had 62 Carmel residents associated with this group. At first, my understanding is that they didn't really understand or know about the Forest and Beach Commission. So at first, they were talking about, amongst themselves, we should have some oversight on city tree policies and procedures and storm recovery, those types of things. So the group had been talking to City Administrator Chip Rarig and try to pass on some suggestions about potential policies, ordinances, but the one thing that's most important to point out is the collaborative nature. They're here to help. They want to help. The spirit is absolutely spot on. So they want to help this, now knowing that there's the Forest and Beach Commission. They're well aware that there's an urban forest master plan. Well aware that there's tree ordinances that are lacking that need some updates. So I think they're here to help. So anyway, Mr. Teo Mina was going to present this item at the May 11th meeting. I believe he was ill. But this is an opportunity. I'll turn it over to him in a second. He's going to present a couple of slides. You have that ready? You got it? Tom's going to get that set up. And we encourage the commission to ask him questions, offer guidance, and what we're trying to do here is to make sure that the efforts of this advisory group is compatible with the desires of the commission, of the Forest and Beach Commission. How did I do, Mr. Teomina? Pretty good?
You did great, Bob.
Decent?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well done.
It's all yours. Let us know when you want us to start the slides.
Well, it's just a slide with some bullet points on it, but I kept my armband from Chom, and you can notice the date there, 5/11. As I was leaving my construction site up on Hatton Road, I felt faint, and paramedic John Moulton transported me to the hospital because my blood pressure dropped, and never happened to me before. Found out I was dehydrated and had food poisoning. So anyway, that's why I wasn't there, or I would have been there. I was actually leaving the construction site to wash myself off and come see you guys. So thank you for letting me come today. As you may or may not know, there was a big article in the Pine Cone on March 10th as a result of the storm of March 9th that was the 80-mile-an-hour windstorm, the phenomenon, the 100-year phenomenon. My neighbor's tree next door, a Monterey pine, blew the canopy of the tree blew off, stabbed into my redwood tree, tore my patio off my house in the back, crashed through my garage, cut my garage in half, and then smashed through a windshield of a brand new car that was sitting in my driveway. After this event, the power was out, as we all know and remember. I went outside with a flashlight to notice the broken windows that my wife had noticed from inside the house. wherein the tree basically missed our home and where she was sitting by about 6 feet. So that was quite a scare. The next morning at my doorstep were city officials from Carmel, because the fire department had turned in the evidence. And I told them, hey, everybody's fine here, nothing to worry about here. And the newspaper reporter, wonderful Mary from the Pinecone, said, hey, are you going to sue the city because, your house got crunched and the tree fell and your neighbor tried to get a permit and it took her a year, and aren't you upset? I said, no, actually not. I said, what I really want to do is make folks aware that we need to work together to help perhaps look at the emergency side of things and the life safety side of things and add that to our existing ordinances and existing protocols so that there'd be a priority to the extent that there was something that was emergent. Well, she wrote an article and she asked if she could quote me, and I said, not only can you quote me, would you please put my email in the article? And she did. As a result of that, over the next month and a half, I gathered literally dozens of emails. I have a list. I've given this all to Chip and to Bob. These are folks that are positive, that want to see positive change, that are not, with flamethrowers and tar and feather. They want to help do their part to help make Carmel safer. So the one bullet list that I have, with your permission, takes about a minute and a half to read through it real quick, is just the bullets that might be on the slide. I think it's seen up on the screen there to your right. So we realize, first of all, that you guys have limited resources. The city itself has limited resources. The budget for tree maintenance and so forth in the city, and the budget for your commission, is limited at best. In the city of Anaheim, where I'm from, soon to be moved permanently up to Carmel, but I'm from in our Disneyland area, which is our sort of urban forest, if you will. We have multi-millions of dollars dedicated to keeping that perfect around that area, which is to say that sometimes the Disneyland area, the resort area, is nicer than the rest of Anaheim. Well, our trees are our Disneyland, and we want to do what we can to give you input and be supportive of your efforts to continue to keep that trees and those forests what they are. That is our brand. Our focus is life safety. It is not, who wants what kind of tree where. Those are certainly some line items we can talk about. But we want to be there to provide ability for your staff and us citizens to help you and your staff to point out potential emergent situations, not just while the winds are blowing and trees are falling, but particularly where there might be a tree that could fall and could cause a problem, like a couple of ones that are still left around my home. And of my 65 folks on my group there, everyone's got a tree that they're worried about, some of which have fallen since they've written their email. Next, we were hopeful that there'd be some way that we could assist in overseeing or looking at the tree forest inventory and helping your staff by providing voluntary work on your behalf to help you. Also, to point out potential removals or suggested replacements of trees that might become emergent or that are leaning or what have you. And one other thing we would like to do is figure out a way of increasing your city resources, whether it be special assessment, a special fee upon building permits, a one-time charge per year to maintain the forest. We have that, as I referred back to Anaheim. There's a little, we can call it a tax for this conversation, but a small fee that's added to property tax bills that goes specifically for the maintenance of the resort, in this case, the maintenance of the forest. These are things that are brought by citizens asking to be charged, if you will, to increase the budget so the job can continue, and the Chip and Bob and them and Tom can do their jobs better with more resources. And finally, we believe that the forest is our most important asset. Clearly, the ocean, we have that, but we didn't make that. We don't maintain the ocean, even though it has a tendency to rear up itself once in a while and knock our beach away. But we can maintain the trees. We can maintain our roads, our trees, our views. That's something we do have control over. So our bottom line is, as Bob pointed out so well, we're here to help. We lay upon you our volunteer nature, either through your commission or through a steering committee that might be formed, or any other way that you deem necessary. So that's pretty much it. And I'm here to answer questions, but I wanted to make sure you got the spirit of what we're all about. Thank you.
Can we get him back on Zoom? can't get him back on Zoom. There we go.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, for that. Anyone from the commission have any questions or comments they'd like to share or ask of Bill and his group that he has formed?
Hi, Bill. I'm Brian Sowers, Commissioner. Just a couple of questions from your viewpoint is, so obviously you've been informed we do have a Forest and Beach Commission, and there is some level of guidelines and specifics around the Forest and Beach Commission, more to the Forest Department through this Public Works Department. How do you envision, after getting more of this knowledge about what's already been in place by the city and this commission, how do you see yourself and your fellow urban forest volunteers interacting or providing? There are lots of different ways I think that both this commission, the city could be enhanced by volunteerism to coming up with ideas for funding, whether it's donations or it's through. I mean, how do you envision your volunteers or your commission or your support to the city and this commission? How do you see that being implemented, or how do you see it envision it, I guess, is my question. I've read through kind of some of the information that's been provided to our pamphlets here, but hearing it from you might be a little more understandable.
There's a little white paper of 3 pages that actually spells that answer out in detail. I'm not sure if that's been provided. When I sat with Chip, city administrator, I provided this to him as kind of our outline. This is a result. These bullet points are a result of about, not being exaggerating, at least 100 email exchanges between the group intramurally that resulted in this. I sort of sent out a draft, asked for people's input, and they gave it to me. I'll just read the headlines very briefly, take about a minute and a half of your time. We talk about providing some special form to start the process through a special circumstance. So there's an emergency going on. We fill out a form and turn it into the city so you know what we're doing. An immediate city inspection by the city arborist, and if an arborist is not available, then there are some on standby. Maybe it's a weekend, and one of the volunteers is deputized, if you will, to act in the stead. Not to do any action, but to make a report and to document what's going on. It goes on and talks about decisions that could be made or suggestions, and then a citizens review board that can sort of be a judgment of its peers to enhance the things that you do. And again, most of this is already being done by you guys. So what we're doing is saying, here, we're providing you some more input to bring other cases up that might not have come through your process yet. There's hearings involved. There's all kinds of other stuff, and it's too complicated to take your time now. But with your permission, I could send this along to you, and perhaps if through the steering committee there could be a time to go through these and see how they fit into your current protocol. But basically, think of us as a quasi member of your staff with no authority other than providing information to those of you that are actually on the city payroll and or on commission. So you have yet another source of input that's been vetted and been organized properly in a way that's good, that the data is good for your staff to react so that it enhances the current actions of your arborist and other members of your life safety folks out in fire and police.
I think it'd be really helpful, Bill, to have a copy of what you just showed, if we could get it.
Yeah, we don't have a copy of that, so it's kind of hard to get a sense.
Okay, I'll make sure that city manager's assistant provides it. You'll have it in your email tonight. Thank you. I'll send it to Bob.
Bill, if you want, you can send that to me, to Yvette, the secretary for the commission.
There you go. I'll send it to Yvette. Thank you.
Thank you.
It might also be helpful, Bill, to have I don't know if you've had an opportunity yet, but to do a gap analysis of what you believe is presently being handled well and where there are gaps that this organization is attempting to fill. I think that would be really useful, so we just don't add additional process on top of a process that's existing. My understanding during the most recent storm is when there were emergencies that the city actually had record response time in the March storms. I think Tom Ford was able to present a really compelling presentation, at least to our group, about that recently, about how hard the city was working. And I think when there are, at least it's my understanding, that the current protocols in the city is that when there are emergency situations, they are approved and responded to quite quickly. Like, for example, there wouldn't be a delay in an emergency come to this committee a month later, right? I
Right.
think they're handled in real time, correct? Right, yeah, so I think it would be helpful to see, it might be a useful exercise to do just a gap analysis on the processes to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts that end up causing confusion in our community about where you go if you have a tree that needs to come down, for example.
Right on. 100%. Agreed. That's in our paper. I agree 100%. Thank you.
Cool.
Bill, I'd just add that, well, I'm certainly excited about this formation of this volunteer group. I think that anytime that the community is rallying together, that's a great signal for us. I think that, and meaning as someone that lives in this community and benefits by that, I would certainly encourage meeting attendance here. We'd love to have some of your 65 members show up once in a while. It'd be great. Certainly, on a monthly basis, there's opportunities in the announcements to make public comment regarding what activities your group is up to, and I look forward to hearing about those things and seeing ways in which you can assist this forest and continue to grow and be a true benefit for the long haul for the city. So thank you for that. I'm gonna, if there's no other commission comment, I'm gonna open it up to public comment. And perhaps if you wouldn't mind fielding some questions that you might get. I'm not sure. We'll see, but I'm going to open that up. Is there anyone from the public, not here in chambers apparently, but on Zoom that would like to make any comments about Bill's presentation?
I have a comment.
Hi there, Dale. Okay.
How are you? Sorry I'm late for the meeting, but I've been doing good work over at Forest Theater in the meantime. I would suggest, first of all, it's exciting, as was just said, to have that many volunteers. You might know I run a volunteer organization called Carmel Cares, and we do a lot of things around the city. And there's also a group, Friends of Carmel Forest, who we're starting to work with. And have you had well, I can't ask questions, but
Yes.
it would be, they could use some help. They certainly need some volunteers, and we're going to be supporting them as well. I think it would be wonderful if you could talk with Maria Sutherland and get some of your people energized to help them out, and maybe even help with some donations and so on. The other thing is, and I totally agree with you in terms of more resources for the forestry department, and I've been attending every budget meeting for the last couple of years trying to do that. Somewhat unsuccessfully, but we have to keep trying. And I would suggest next year when that process starts, and it starts pretty early, you have to keep your eyes open. I would suggest that you actively participate in that so you can be another voice along with me and a few other people to push to enlarge the forestry, and Bob, I'm sure, to get the forestry department enhanced in terms of more full-time people. So I love all your ideas, and I think it's, I've had issues with trees over the years too. And I thank you for doing this job to surface some of the issues, some of which probably can be handled by Tom and the city as the forester comes in and things start, taking better shape. But good job. Thank you very much.
Same to you, Dale. Thank you for what you do. I've watched and seen and been a recipient of the hard work you do, and Carmel is better for you and your group.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the comment.
Thanks, Dale. Is there anyone else from the public online that would care to make a comment? It doesn't look like it. So again, thanks, Bill. And we'll go ahead and move on with orders of business.
Thank you.
So then we're now at number 7, the steering committee member selection for the urban forest matter plan. Master.
Okay, I will very carefully and delicately, as best I can, introduce this item. Okay, going back in time a little bit, back in November, well, even before that, Well over a year ago, the city received a $150,000 grant approval from CAL FIRE to do an urban forest master plan. We've since hired a Davie Resources Group to do the urban forest master plan. The plan is a little bit past half done. Back when we were first getting the ball rolling, we came before the commission in November, talked about 2 potential committees to supplement or to, the urban forest master plan is a very important document to the commission and to the city. So we talked about having a technical task force and a steering committee. One was the technical task force, more of the technical guidance, because the master plan will be a lot of technical information, and also the steering committee to be more policy guidance, support, oversight. And in that discussion, what we got out of it was, let's have one committee. It's just too onerous to have 2 committees. And it's a relatively short duration. We're thinking maybe about a year and a half, a dozen meetings or so of a steering committee. So the decision at that time was to have the 5-member Forest and Beach commissioners be served, obviously, as the commission/steering committee on matters pertaining to the urban forest master plan, supplemented by public members with a diverse perspectives, different backgrounds. We didn't want, at the time, the thought was not to have 4 or 5 or 10 additional people that all had the same opinion. We want the diversity of opinions just like we have in the community itself. So we drafted survey questions, which are in your packet as attachment number 1. Those were vetted by the commission, so that's what we used. We lost a little bit of momentum in early part of the year. We had the January storms, we had the forester leave in February, then we had the March storms. So it wasn't, even though there was a late start on this steering committee, didn't really matter too much because not a lot of Davie Resource Group not really ready to present the results or parts of the master plan. But now we're getting closer. Okay, so now's a good time to get this moving. That's why we're here. So using those survey questions, it was posted in the Friday letter and on the city website. The applications were closed on May the 26th. Personally, I'm pleased that we received 13 applications. I thought that was pretty good. The responses with all the names and personal information has been intentionally redacted. So it's a completely unbiased process. It's a little bit challenging spreadsheet to read. Believe it or not, that's been enlarged twice. I reviewed the original, but thanks to Tom and Yvette to make it as big as we could get it and fit on one page, I guess. So anyway, the method, Tom and I and the community planning and building director kind of huddled how should we go selecting this committee member, or recommending to the, if we were to recommend to the commission, how would we go about doing that? What we came up with at staff level is to completely be anonymous. This is, have all the information redacted. Yes, if you review the information carefully, there's some people that kind of be more obvious than others. But also the criteria that we wanted to emphasize, which is what was talked about at the commission meeting back in November, was diversity of constituents, different perspectives, at least some of them having knowledge of arboricultural practices and a lot of community involvement. Based on that, staff, Tom and I independently reviewed them. We do have our recommendations, which the commission can take or leave. It's just, we'd be happy to share why we came up with those, that selection, but we are not on the commission. We are here to help guide the commission to make a determination. And before I wrap up, so we're thinking for the committee would meet starting in July. July, we're planning to have the first topic of the Urban Forest Master Plan. Davie Resource Group, I believe, is going to be asking for the vision, asking the commission / steering committee, what is the vision for the urban forest? So at this next month's meeting, just coming up, probably up to a dozen other meetings over the next year and a half. So the first batch would be relative to the master plan. The consultant goes away, then the next frontier is the long-awaited ordinance updates, which would include defining what authority the Forest and Beach Commission has, which I know some of the commissioners have been beyond patient. We're getting there. We're getting there. So at the July meeting, so this commission would, I'm not sure how we're going to post it on the agenda, but there'd be X number of additional people, whether we physically stand up behind us or in the audience or whatever you want to do it. That would be the committee. That would be the steering committee. The items presented, discuss amongst all of you, make recommendations, guidance to the group. The commissioners still have the option to say, I don't want the steering committee. I would imagine you want their input, but you're the decision-making body here. But the thought here is to expand, different perspectives because of the importance of this, to get the broader perspective. And the member expectations that the applicants know about is to attend at least 75% of the meetings, engage with the community, and consider openly everyone's point of view, be prepared for the meetings, use their social networks, that type of thing, and be respectful of all opinions. So with that, turn it over to the commission to decide how you want to proceed with a selection. And also we recommended that the commissioners confirm yourselves serving as members of the steering committee for the Urban Forest Master Plan. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Bob. Well, I guess probably to the group, I think first we probably want to verify what each of our individual intentions are as it relates to desire to participate in this steering committee. I think, and I only suggest that because I think that helps us perhaps identify what the total number of people that we'd like to see in this committee. So there are 5 of us. Is there anyone who is inclined to not participate in this steering committee? Okay, well, so that's positive. That's good. So it is going to require some additional time. We've seen what the expectations are. That in mind, how large of a committee are you guys comfortable with? Is 9? I know that the staff has recommended 4, but we don't care necessarily about who those 4 are, but they've recommended 4. I'm not really sure if their recommendation was 4 because it was just the 4 that they liked, or it was 4 because in their mind they thought that was a good balance with the commission. Where's everybody here? What does everybody think about that? I mean, there's 13 candidates. I would say first of all, that there's 13 candidates, fantastic. Certainly, if you feel people have comments of strongly agree or strongly disagree, you've got people that cared enough to spend time doing this, and I imagine each of them has some real value to add. That being said, it could get a little kind of out of hand if we were to have 13 additional people on this steering committee and make it a total of 18. So does anyone have a thought about what that kind of number should look like? And that will help us figure out how many we choose, right?
I have a question just on process.
Yeah.
Was Mr. Taramina and all of his 65 residents aware we were doing this? Because it seems like we've recently had a huge influx of people interested in our urban forest. So I'm not trying to just punt on all of this, but I'm just wondering if we should be, in addition to this, taking one pass to see if there's.
I think they had the choice of I think they knew about it.
They did know about it? Okay.
I think Bill did, you meant, yeah.
I did mention it to Mr.
Okay, all
Taormino
right. Okay,
that
then
this
that's-
is out there.
I
Okay,
think
then we're
this,
good.
this process has been in place in terms of getting us here.
Right. I just
for a
wanted to
little
make
while.
sure that this recent influx of interest, and it sounds like he gave a thumbs up, they all knew about it, so
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so,
4, I think so.
so 4, making a total of 9, does everyone have does anyone else have a
Well,
different thought around this?
You know, they suggested we pick 4 from this, and I'd like us to invite Bill to be on it also, because he has shown so much. First of all, he's an incredibly tactful person. That never hurts when you're discussing things. But, you know, he's shown a lot of effort and
Pardon my interruption, Commissioner. Just to be forthcoming, I had understood that Bill Taormina was active thus far in tree matters. I personally sent him the link. I am reluctant to, confirm or deny, folks who submitted applications, but I wanted to be forthcoming that I did invite him to apply. And then just to be, my name is on this sheet and I want to be 100% forthcoming. I saw several of the names. I did not see all of the names of the folks who submitted their applications. So I wanted, at least for my part, for the staff recommendations, since my name is named in there, I just wanted to be forthcoming that, it should be taken within that context, that I did inadvertently see several of the names because I'm the one who redacted. That I had to go through the Excel sheet after I downloaded the files to redact them.
So are you saying Bill is in this?
He's not confirming or
I
denying
am
it.
unfortunately not confirming or denying and keeping a
But
poker face
I think that's the
throughout.
beauty of actually the way this information has been
Yeah.
presented to us. It
Yeah.
allows us to actually evaluate what it is that each candidate is bringing without having a bias towards their name, right? And, I would imagine, again, based off of the extent of responses in the detail, quickly we could probably come up with a relatively short list. It sounds like the city took an interesting approach by, I think each one of you guys got 2 votes. Is that how I understand how you guys went about
Yeah,
the
so
process?
Tom and I, well, he saw some names, I didn't, that's the name. But anyway, he did his thing, I did my thing, and then it's, okay, what numbers did you get? I got 1, 6, 14, whatever the numbers were. And then it just so happens that 4 of these 13 candidates, but we both had on our list.
Great.
And then the other ones we had,
And you had some singles.
yeah, ones that either Tom or I had 1 vote, so that person didn't get 2 votes. So that was the only reason that we took a stab at making a recommendation, which we know better now. But
That's fine. You should. We're happy to have you make recommendations.
Right.
Does anyone else have thoughts around how the selection process can work? I think I would like to reach out to the public and solicit for maybe some suggestions on how best to approach this. There might be some that have done this frequently and have some good ideas. So I'm putting that out there for those of you that are listening online, since the chambers are empty. Is there anyone that would have some suggestions on how best to go about this, or does there a general agreement about a number of 9 being on the steering committee? Is it enough? Is not enough? Bill's got his hand up. We're all ears, Bill.
I don't know how to do it on Zoom, so I do it with my hand.
There you go.
I would suggest the committee itself, that you guys already are seated, and maybe 6 others, but that the 6 others that are not formally been appointed by the city council on your committee be advisory to you, and that you all are the voting block of this steering committee. So again, receiving formal information and volunteers, but not with voting power. So basically, you're just having additional eyes and ears to help you. Would be my input to that.
And just out of curiosity, why did you say 6? What was?
Because that way you have kind of 1 for each of you, more or less. Kind of offsets the group, kind of balances it with elected and non-elected officials, the general public versus appointed officials that have formal titles.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Anyone else from the public with some suggestions or ideas? Okay, doesn't.
CJ?
Oh, yeah. Dale.
Hi. I think that I think the way that it's written in the document that Bob prepared makes sense to me. I think the 4 and then any of your group that wants to participate. I think the more people you have, it probably gets more complicated, but, I can see the value in having more too. But I thought they did a really good job on the analysis, and I think it looks good.
Great, thanks, Dale, appreciate that. Commission?
Anyone else?
No, was there someone else? I didn't, sorry.
Just as a question, so I know, Bob, going back in time, that this was something that Sarah was working on prior to her leaving, as far as kind of putting some level of structure behind what the urban master plan at least kind of looks like, so that, because obviously we've got really nothing we're looking at yet about
That's correct.
what are the bullet points, what are we trying, what's our major objective here, and what are the strategic bullet points that we're trying to address to develop the master plan, right?
Okay, this is a meeting unto itself. The master plan is one major component is an inventory of all city-owned trees.
Which we have Davy Tree.
The Davy Resource Group has done that, or down to the last 800 or something.
Right.
They've done that work and entered all that information into the computer. I think there's 9 or 10 additional technical studies, like a tree canopy assessment, soil assessment, economic viability of the forest assessment, our management practices of the forestry staff practices. So there's been a number of, and there's some in progress, and some are done, and some haven't even started yet. Public outreach is one of the elements, preparing the plan itself. Those tasks were identified as part of the CAL FIRE grant. There's a lot of other things we'd like to have done, but the meat is right out of, in fact, CAL FIRE had to bless the scope of work from Davy. So we met and we all agreed this, and the prior forester was very much involved, was like the main author of that, of what technical studies would be done. So there was she prepared a draft. It went to the consultant, they fine-tuned it, went to CAL FIRE, they fine-tuned it, the grant, they gave us approved the grant, which we're trying to get some reimbursement now. It's another story. And so yes, we have, because most of the time since then has been doing the inventory, not much to report other than they're doing the inventory, which we kind of mentioned every month. But, but now the excitement part, is anywhere it's coming up pretty soon. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess my question is, so we don't, I'm just trying to understand the scope of what we're doing in the context of whether it's bullet points or it's, what have we submitted, where are we at? And you've got your inventory, you've got this, then underneath that, where are we starting with, and what is the end game here that we're trying to do, and how we follow down that pathway? Because I think some of these people that have submitted their opportunity to be a part of it, we're gonna wanna maybe map their expertises in the different areas that we want to try and achieve within the master plan, and they may fit nicely as being a representative in that area of expertise they may have. Because I'm looking through that list, there are people with, landscape backgrounds too, and we'd want to, obviously, we appreciate all the volunteers that have put their names out here, but it might be advantageous to us to, as a group, if we're deciding who's going to join us on this, pick ones that are going to add the best value that we perceive based on what our objectives are that we're trying to achieve in the master plan, right?
Right. And if I may, I would take it a step further. After the master plan is done and adopted, ultimately by the commission and then by city council, phase 2 is the ordinance without the consultant, without CAL FIRE. We have an ordinance, it's way outdated, we know that, we need to do that, and the steering committee, public participants, participate in that process of brainstorming and fine-tuning.
But all those new ordinance will be mapped out against, hopefully, the things that we've developed as a part of this master plan.
Yes,
and it feeds into those ordinances, correct?
That's the foundation of it, yes.
Right. Okay.
May I contribute to 2 of the most pressing tasks of the steering committee that are upcoming in the next week or 2 or 3? Is that we would request from the steering committee to provide input regarding the structure of a community workshop. In other words, how do you want, for for you all in the steering committee, how do you want this community workshop organized? How do you actually see the individual, events during that workshop going? How would you like that to go to ensure community participation? We want that input from the steering committee. We also want input from the steering committee regarding a community-wide survey. Hey, steering committee, what questions do you want to see on there? What questions do you think will garner the best feedback from all of the residents in the community? Hey, steering committee, could you please help us get the word out? We want every single person here answering these questions that you helped us create. So those are some of the immediate action items that we'll call upon the steering committee to provide input on in the next few weeks.
So are you going to come up, are you as a part of the forest department of the city going to come up with those questions, and then we're supposed to give you those questions, or how do you see that proceeding?
I foresee it being the forestry division will probably have a very good head start on the types of questions that we imagine would be useful for us. To not taint the perspective, so to speak, of the steering committee. I personally will be inclined to request questions from the steering committee without any prior, priming, so to speak.
So, task at hand, identifying the quantity, the number. We got a couple suggestions. Does anyone feel strongly one way or the other about 4, 5, 6, whatever that number is in terms of this advisory committee that's going to come out of this volunteer list? And I think, Brian, to your point, perhaps there might be some people with some real specialized skills that hopefully we can still reach out to as a committee, reaching out for additional input. And I imagine those that are here, even if they don't get selected, they're probably still willing to participate in some form or fashion, I would think, right? But is there a number that we can settle on, and so that we can maybe go ahead and start, and everyone's had a chance to look at these, I hope, in the last few days, and has some ideas of who and kind of what their maybe top 4, 5, or 6 would be, and then we can come up with a collective, like, oh, we're all on the same page, and start kind of drilling down through so that we can get these done before midnight. I think there's what's the ordinance? It's at 6? Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah, the ordinance.
Oh, yeah. There's an ordinance that has to be done at 6.
Pardon me, it actually isn't the ordinance, it's the Forest and Beach Commission Rules and Procedures.
Oh, rules and procedures, thank you, yeah. So we're gonna try to embrace those as best as possible.
I've been on,
Good with 4 or 5. I've identified 5, but I'm good with 4 or 5.
Okay, there's one opinion.
5, I'd think 5. I think 4 is a little too few, 5 or 6, actually.
I think I would be more inclined for 5 or 6. I hate to I'd like to take as many people as we believe have valuable, that everybody has valuable input, and I've been on many boards that are 12 to 15 people persons, so particularly because I think the kickoff will be the presentation from the Davie Resource Group. That'll be the basis for us to have our first conversation, and there may be somebody that comes that decides they're not especially interested, or it's not going to be their thing, or they may. So I don't know. I would be inclined to err on the side of more people. That we may find someone.
Brian?
I mean, I think 5 or 6 is. My concern is there are 5 of us, right? And if we're participating full on, if we get too many people in there with too much, these meetings are going to be long because everyone's going to want to have their 2 cents into the meeting, and I don't want to bog things down because I know it can tend to be a lot of time. And
Well, I definitely heard 5 over and over again from everyone, and so why don't we settle on 5, and then there you go, right? With that in mind, we can, we can kind of have a tally, I suppose. I'm not really sure how best to do this. We can, if each of you have got maybe your short list of like your top 4 or top 5, however it is, we can write those down and see how they match up. Does that seem like a fair way to do it?
I'll try to be the tally keeper.
You want to be the tally keeper?
I'll try. Oh, you know what?
And do we just want to put it against the chart here and, I'm just going to go kind of left to right. Brian, have you got your
You
list?
know, I did not put my study into this, so
Okay.
I'm a little behind.
So
the
why
gun
don't
on
we
this.
why don't we come to you last, and then we'll
Okay.
start down on this end. Yeah, let's just take your numbers and see how we shape up here.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. 2, 3, 5, 9, 12.
9 and,
5-9.
and what?
2, 3, 5, 9, 12.
12. Okay.
Okay.
I just got 4.
Sarah, what are
Okay,
your
hold on,
four
hold
then?
on, hold
3,
on.
9, 5, 12?
Yeah, I got hers. Okay.
Okay, Sarah.
Sarah?
3, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so Sarah, 3, 8,
8, 9,
9, 9?
10.
Oh, yeah, 9. And then
JC?
I'm sorry, you said, I'm sorry, what were yours again, Sarah? 3?
3, 8, 9, and 10.
3, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, and so I have 2, 3, 9, and 12.
Kelly? Or Commissioner Brzezinski? Yes.
Okay, so. I have 6, so can I give you 6?
Yeah,
Just
let's take all
five.
6.
Okay, so I have 2,
You can, I'll take one of yours.
I have 2,
I only have
3,
4.
4, 5, 6, and 12.
Commissioner Sowers, are you ready?
I'm just gonna go with the numbers here because I mean, I'm in agreement with you guys as far as the numbers you're picking. I would pick 2, 3, 9, 12.
Okay, so that's helpful.
I'm going to tell you guys something because I recognize who number 9 is, and that's Bill, so.
Nope.
Go like that.
Well, let's tally and then,
So we can just.
and we can confirm
We can
that.
start with the tally. It's pretty simple. Number 3 has all of us.
5 votes.
And so it makes sense to me that we're choosing number 3. Number 2 has 4 of the 5 of us. This is our next grouping is 4. So that would be number 2 has 4 and number 9 has 4. The next would be.
Oh, 12 has 4.
12 had 4? Okay, yeah, is that right? Let's see, I had myself, Tamara. Oh, Brian, did you say 12?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, thank you. So, and then 12, appreciate that. And then the next grouping would, well, I think
You
that
now have
was-
4 candidates.
That's 4. So now we've got 2 for 5, and we've got, that's kind of our next one, would be 2 for 5. Do we want to have some additional discussion about that? I mean, if we, or do you want,
What
do
do
we
you
just
got?
go, we have, number 5 has 2, would be kind of our next.
6 has 2 too, right?
Did 6 have 2? 6 had 1.
6 had 1?
Wait, number 5, let's see.
Yeah, I had 6 as 1.
6 has 1.
Number 5 wants more,
So
no,
number 5 would be, would
wants
essentially
more
make our
tre- Wants
5th.
more trees and wants to control the landscaping with how we design. I would be very against that.
Number 5 has what, they're working in the near Earth habitat. They do, let's see.
Wants more forest trees, strong, let's see.
25
New
years
landscape
of,
design requirements for, so.
25 years of horticultural practices, native plant communities, tree care. I mean, essentially, we're looking for the 5th spot.
Okay, so what other numbers did you have?
So the other selections that we had with one vote, we had number 6, we had number 8, and, oh, sorry, number 4, number 6, and number 8.
I think 8 sounds really good myself. Number 6.
Well, it's funny because it's got your name on it.
Number 6 mentioned most of her experience, his experience, whatever, is in Fresno, so I thought maybe that wasn't the best. Fresno's pretty different.
Okay, let's see, number 8, let's see, what's going on with, let's see, number 8, people safety before trees, forest management seems to be a war between the city or groups and property owners, real estate professional, let's see.
I was trying to get a variety between those
Yeah.
who were gung-ho for more trees and those that said, we've really got to look at this again.
I like
So
that,
8,
I see where you're going with that. So we have,
8 was good at that, I thought, in terms of let's look at things.
well, so that's a good, and I agree, I think it's really important that we have healthy opinions on both sides. If looking at who we've already selected, and I'm just gonna go with that first category, which is the forest is great, please don't change anything, right? So we've taken number
That's
2,
number
who
2,
says
yeah.
agree, then we've taken number 3, who disagrees, so that's great, right? We've got opposing opinions right away. We've taken number 9 that says strongly disagrees, and we've taken number 12 that says disagrees. I mean, so realistically, we probably are looking for somebody that agrees versus
Okay.
not, because
But wait, which is the disagree on? I mean, these different ones.
that one I just read, just the first
Yeah, I
one, which
know, but-
was the please don't change anything, right?
Oh, well, yeah,
So number 4 is neutral, so that could be a good play.
let's see. Number 4.
Let's see, ability to listen, learn, listen, and make decisions based off of data.
Yeah, that sounds like a good person.
So, looks like
I'll vote for number 4 also. I only picked 4, so I'll pick.
25-year resident, volunteer for the city. There's a vote for number 4. Does anyone else? Does number 4?
I thought there was a lot of leadership and collaboration in number 4, and not necessarily deep tree experience, but that
Yeah.
kind of thinking, I think, can be useful in a consensus setting.
Okay, I like it. I could jump on that as well, which would make us have 3, which would put that candidate atop of everyone that would, that we had already identified. Does that sound?
Who do we have so far then?
Okay, great. Let me go through it. So number 2, number 3, we're considering number 4, number 9, and number 12.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Does everybody sound like we've got an advisory committee put together?
I think that's good.
Pretty good.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote or anything. We're just coming out together with a discussion. So we've got our 5, and whoever you are, we welcome you, I guess. And I don't know if we need to reveal who they are at this point today. Does anyone want to know? I mean,
If you would
would
like
you-
to, you have the names on it.
have we got
I
a
was
master?
supposed to bring the names and I forgot them.
That's
I
funny.
think I can pull it up, but I apologize.
I know some of the
One
names.
job, Tom.
We did 2, 3, we
ended
did
up
5.
with
Yeah, we settled on 5, actually. Number 5 people, right?
Do you want to just send us an email?
Suspense guy.
So 2, 3, 4, 9.
I have some of the names if you would like.
Well, that's
I don't
going to
have
not be
them all.
really
I
fair
don't
for
have
those
them all.
that,
Just send us an email.
he's looking it up. Do you want to continue on with orders of business?
No.
No? And then we can let those folks know perhaps at the end of our meeting while Tom's going forward. That way,
That's
just
right,
in.
we need your report.
Yes, okay. It won't be as long as usual, but it will still be terribly long. Okay, so here's, what?
The timer.
The timer, the 3 minutes?
Time is it?
Yes.
All right, Public Works Director's Report for May 2023, including the Forestry Division Report. Okay, first topic is City Council actions related to forestry, parks, and beach. This is not really May, this is from June the 6th, which was Tuesday night. 3 things to point out. One is all the capital improvement projects and operating budget projects that were listed in the meeting minutes that we approved earlier tonight. There was a list of all the projects. All have been approved by council, including our operating budget for forestry, so that's good news. Second, council approved change orders. We have 3 on-call tree contractors. It's West Coast Arborist, Hope's Tree Contracting, and Community Tree Service. We went over budget for this current fiscal year because of the March storms. So council approved $33,000 net increase to cover us through the end of this fiscal year, and change order for the new fiscal year. And instead of the $300,000 that we initially budgeted for the tree contractors, now that we have an increased overall budget, the council approved $525,000, $175,000 each for the 3 tree contractors right off the bat in July. And Tom assures me that we'll need more money around August or September.
Who are our tree guys? Did you say?
It's Topes Tree Service, West Coast Arborist, and Community Tree Service.
Oh, I've never heard of community tree service.
I'm sorry?
I've never heard of.
They're out of
community-
Watsonville.
They were.
Yeah. They did a fantastic job since March.
Good.
It really helped us.
They took down all the eucalyptus over at Laura Roberts.
Oh, is that right?
Okay. Good.
And this might be interesting. Council approved a professional services agreement for on-call arborist services up to $100,000 through June 30th of 2025 with a company named Ono Consulting.
Yes, we know what that is.
Might be interesting, huh?
That's mighty interesting.
Bob.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll leave it at that. Second, Forestry Division report. We already talked about this first one. Davie Resources Group continues making good progress with technical studies associated with the Urban Forest Master Plan. They're nearing completion with the GIS mapping and operational reviews. Something I missed, GIS mapping. Halfway done with tree canopy and land cover assessments, starting the economic analysis and stakeholder interview questions. Okay. Next is talking about Tom. Tom's coordinated with CAL FIRE, seeking $89,000 reimbursement of the $150,000 grant. And Tom has provided lots of additional backup information to get our $89,000 worth. And they've requested that we go back in time for the last 3 quarters, because even though we had not much to bill, they want the last 3 quarters anyway. So yeah, well, that first quarter, nothing happened, but here's how many pounds of ozone that we've cleared up by counting trees, which even though we hadn't started. So it's the state is mysterious. Tom attended a local workshop for the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. There's now preliminary findings. There's the city website on the main web page. There's a link if you want to start looking at the Wildfire Protection Plan. It's an ongoing process with Dudek Consultants and the City of Monterey and Pacific Grove. Okay? And I think once that plan is complete, that'd be a good presentation before your commission and talking about the wildfire risk and action items. And last but not least is attached in the director's report is Tom's PowerPoint entitled City Prioritization Data and Actions Related to Tree Concerns. That was presented at your April 13th meeting. And so that's on our website, right? Right, Tom?
It is,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, all right. Let's see what else we got. Climate Action and Climate Adaptation Plan. Interesting development. Okay, so we recall back in, was it February or March, we had the consultants talk about the condition assessment of the revetments, the walls, the stairs. That was task 1. So the city team, we got a preview of task 2. It's still a work in progress. Interesting. It focused on historical beach sand movement, which I know Commissioner Sowers is very interested in hearing about. Coastal tide patterns, future changes due to climate change. And they go very technical, very see beach sand movement over the years. One thing that jumped out at me that was notable was that, I don't remember the years exactly, but the El Nino storms of mid 80s
Yeah.
and then late 90s.
98.
I forgot which one was worse. It took 2 years for the beach sand to return back to the normal pre-storm levels. One of those two El Niños took 2 years, one took a year, year and a half. The storms we had this year, in January predominantly, is closer to the one that took about a year. Could be a year, year and a half, based on historical trends. It wasn't as bad as whichever one was worse of those storms. Okay? But now we have something some tangible information, not just a guess. So that will be coming before the commission here. I'm not sure when, but they're working on it.
Do you have any inkling on when that would potentially be presented?
July is probably too soon, maybe August? Probably August.
Okay.
Also, here's some good news. Okay, the consultant, it's EMC, Integral, and Harrah Kucinich that we had here a couple months ago. We are putting in for a $418,000 non-competitive Coastal Commission local coastal program grant. We think we have a tremendous opportunity of success for $400,000, which instead of just finishing up this phase 1 for tasks, not just doing phase 2, which we budgeted for in the CIP, to also do phase 3. This would pay for all of it. We're also looking at that in the grant application to reimburse staff, perhaps? Or can we use some of that money to design repairs of revetments and seawalls? So it's a work in progress. It's a hefty application, but it sounds that we have a great opportunity. It's non-competitive, and Coastal Commission is begging to give the money away, which is, we're happy to receive it, but we have to get our ducks in a row to turn in our application.
But so I guess my question maybe is what? So I'm gonna let you finish, but
Sure.
Who are the engineers that are providing these reports? Because I know they didn't really necessarily put dollar signs around what would be required to fix the revertments and do all this stuff. There was no money mentioned in it, right?
That's correct.
And when would we have a view into that?
Okay, so in the new fiscal year coming up in July, we're going to be hiring a firm to do the initial part of shoreline repair, infrastructure repairs. That will consist of doing cost estimates for each one of those, all the stairs, all the seawalls, all the revetments. It will include the design of it will include the repair of the 2 stairwells that are most damaged. And whatever remaining money is to design as much as we can until we're at the $250,000.
Yeah, that's not.
Which maybe not enough. Maybe we'll get some of that Coastal Commission money.
So again, we were gonna have a conversation at the end of this meeting, but
Sure.
I'm very interested to understand rough and dirty what range we're talking about, because I'm, as a part of this commission, whether we wanna do it as a commission or do it as an individual,
Right.
I'm really looking into the potential to put a bond issue up for the voting public in Carmel about supporting the dollars they're gonna need it to cover this stuff. Because if we don't do it now, the costs will be enormous downstream.
Right. My initial estimate by talking with the Harrah Kucinich was at least $2 million. So that was just
And that's not
A
even,
wild- that's a
that's
guess.
not, it- and that
That's a
is not
guess.
even in viewpoint for this city to be able
No.
to afford, is that correct?
the city council authorized $250,000.
To do a study about how
No.
much it's going to cost.
It would be to hire a firm, hire 2 firms. One would fix a couple of the stairs. One would be the cost estimates for everything that needs to be done. So we'll know, is it 2 million? Is it 8 million? We don't really know yet. And to whatever remaining money within the 250,000, design all remember there was priority repairs, moderate repairs, and probably not going to get to the low priorities, but to at least get started on those high priority repairs. This is going to be a long-term, but multi-year project, unless there's a bond measure and invest all the money up front, that would expedite the whole darn thing. But the way it's set up as of right now, we got $250,000 to get the ball rolling. Okay. Some update on some volunteer stuff. Most of the Carmel Cares items that are in your packet. The council approved a $3,000 discretionary grant to Carmel Cares for proposed upgrades at the Vista Lobos Park. So we'll be working with Dale and his group on what that looks like and presenting that at a later date to the commission. MPC horticulture professor Alan Wheat took his native plant class to Forest Theater, where they planted native grasses and plants to supplement the landscaping recently installed by Carmel Cares. And at the North Dunes restoration site, coordinating with volleyball player volunteers to pull weeds out of ice plant and amongst the endangered species. Is that anyone you know was involved?
I've been there myself.
Were there any like this lizards that got pulled out of the ice plant? No? Okay. Okay, all right. And, what's that? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Last but not least, miscellaneous items. Oh, okay, so in the past couple of weeks, we collaborated with Monterey Fire and Carmel Police to consider alternatives to the beach access ramp. So on Scenic, just south of 8th, there was the beach access or the sand ramp that's been there for a long, long time. It got washed out in the January storms. We were hoping, now we know better, that's going to be a year or two to get the sand back, but we were hoping that the sand would come back in time for the Memorial Day weekend. It did not. We talked to planning about hauling in, if we could find sand, hauling in many, many, many truckloads of sand through town. That's more environmental impacts. The sand will come back in naturally before we get the environmental approvals to put the sand back. So we met with the police and fire. So what we did is we moved a couple of boulders at the end of the Del Mar parking lot. We put up the boulders were protecting cars from going out to the beach, even though a couple skated through anyway. Pushed the boulders aside, put a little chain. We tested by deflating the tires. We did a public works vehicle, a fire, not an engine, it was some kind of rescue unit, and police vehicle. We tested that. They went out to the beach, they went up and down, they came back, then they have to reflate the tires. But it worked. So anyway, we have a temporary alternative. We can get down to the beach.
How did they get down to the beach, though?
They deflated the tires.
I know, but on one of those, I mean, they.
Yeah, so we moved the boulders out of the way. It's a good, in the Del Mar parking lot. There's a chain. You can quickly remove the chain,
Okay.
drive down, deflate the tires, drive down, do what their thing. And then,
It sounds pretty soft, though, going down.
Yeah, it
I'm
is,
surprised
yeah.
they could do
I know.
that.
that's why we were going, please, work. But it worked.
Yeah,
It worked.
good.
As some of you know, we rented a Bobcat and spread the sand over the embankment by the park, that same parking lot and west of the volleyball courts to cover the exposed sandstone before the Memorial Day weekend. We've been clearing out huge amounts of fire fuel and debris from Mission Trail Nature Preserve. The Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve hired a contractor, in addition to their own volunteers, they hired a contractor and they put big piles of dead wood and dead trees and things like that. But we've been hauling out as fast as they generate them, but it's been an ongoing process.
Still some together.
Oh, okay, on San Antonio Pathway, where the infamous hedge issue was, remember the fence was leaning? So we have a game plan now. We've been working with FEMA to try to get some reimbursement. That's off the record. That's off the record. Should we leave that? What's that? No, strike that. Where was I? Oh, what was interesting about that is here's the road, there's an AC berm, there's the dirt DG pathway, and there was this grape stake wood fence, right? What happened was, it turns out, when they built the fence, they put huge concrete piers up to 10 feet deep below the fence. So that fence would never go anywhere.
It's on a hillside.
Hmm?
It's on a hillside, right?
Yeah, well, true. I thought there was no foundation. Turns out there's a foundation. But because the dirt was too low, the dirt didn't go into the street. I'm sorry, the water didn't go into the street. The water came onto the pathway. It went to the bottom of the wood wall. Rotted the base of the wood wall. So you can see, if you go there today, you can see where it was like a creek that went through there. Rotted the wood fell over, 10-foot deep, concrete posts below, doing nothing. So anyway, we worked with, Sonio is one of our project management consultants. They're going to put a game plan starting in July to
So
have that
there's
restart.
there's infrastructure there with these piers that are down there. to
Right, I'm
attach
not
to-
even sure how we're going to tie into those old piers, because there's wood in there
Oh, there's wood.
that is sheared off.
Okay.
Yeah, so, anyway, now we have, like, we talked to a structural engineer, we talked to a civil engineer, I don't know what to do, this is really weird. So, now we have a game plan.
A new fence?
It will replicate the old one.
Pressure treated wood instead of what they use there.
It will replicate it will look like the old one, maybe use redwood or something, I don't know, but same idea.
And what
Two
about
more.
trimming that area so that it's more sightline?
It's on Tom's to-do list. Right?
The
Right.
neighbors are gonna be peering in,
I spoke to the,
I mean, I'm just asking because that was one of our follow-ups in our minutes, right? Was to
yes,
understand
we
what
need
was
to get back to
happening.
you when we have something to report. Well, we work on the fence.
Nothing's happened.
I
No-
understand, that's why,
nothing's happened.
that's why I'm asking
Nothing's
again,
happened,
right?
right.
It seemed
Right.
like it was an unsightly area
Right,
that was deserving of some trimming.
right. We had a couple other things going on. And, oh, jeez.
On
San Antonio and.
Second.
Yeah, no, we will get back to you.
Despite it.
We didn't forget. We
The,
didn't get to it yet.
the new forester is going to heavily contribute to that. I don't want to be the one who contributes to the decision-making without having an arborist background. So I think that we should address it as soon as possible. It sounds like we're going to have an arborist on board. In the meantime, we'll get feedback from Justin Ono.
Okay. Two more little tidbits so we can wrap up before our 6 o'clock mandate. We updated, for the new fiscal year coming up July 1st, we updated the public works fees, which includes the cost for tree permits, appeals to the Forest and Beach, appeals to council, encroachment permits, that type of thing. Small increases, but at least, a few extra bucks here and there couldn't hurt. Last but not least, at the Traffic Safety Committee meeting of May 30th, we don't often talk about traffic safety in this forum, but the topic, as requested by the Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve, is how can we prohibit bikes and e-bikes in Mission Trail? So bicycle, I don't know about e-bikes, but it's news to me, maybe there have been some, but the bicycles are allowed on the Sarah Trail and I think the Willow Trail, that's it. We have signs, do not go anywhere else. They go everywhere. They go from trail to trail. They cause erosion. They move logs. They make a mess. It's not daily, but yes, there has been occasions where we have to clean up the mess because bicycles went a little bit off the rails. Enforcing that is a challenge. We don't have the capacity to have police in the park, and if they were 24/7, it's a big park. So they're going to catch every bicycle that comes in there. So we talked about the enforcement challenges. We talked about we're doing an inventory of the signs. Maybe we get better signs, bigger signs. We're going to go back and review the complaints we've had. So the Traffic Safety Committee is going to do some more homework to see how we can address it, because it's not a quick fix. But there is a problem with bicyclists in the Mission Trail Nature Preserve, which is part of your purview as a park. And we'll chip away at it until we come up with something better. That's all I had. I'm happy to answer your questions, or we can go out to the public.
God, it sounded like the commission kind of peppered you with questions all the way through. But I will open it up to the public if there's anyone from the public that has any questions or comments for our director. Now's your opportunity. Looks like I see a hand go up, so hello there, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
Good,
I had a
thanks.
question on the beach as a resident. In the past, I know we've quote unquote pushed the sand back up on an annual basis. Is that something that's included in those patterns of beach erosion and things like that?
See that?
I believe so, right? Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for your question, Maria. It's not done on an annual basis. It's done pretty much when needed. Sometimes it's done annually, sometimes it's done up to 3 times a year. The consultants that are looking at the beach sand survey are aware that we do, they call it maintenance. I think what the consultants are looking at, a big picture, like the beach as, Carmel Beach as a whole, the width of the sand as a whole. What our sand movement is really to cover up exposed sandstone so it's not slippery and people don't fall into the crevices. So it's we're doing what we're doing as a Public Works is micro level. What the consultant's looking at is macro level.
Okay, I know there was 2 areas I was thinking about. One is under the cypress tree, that iconic cypress tree near the volleyball courts, because its roots get exposed, and I know we used to have it sand pushed up into the roots so it wouldn't fall. And then at the bottom of 8th, there's several large stones at the very bottom of the path, or the stairs coming down. It seems kind of dangerous. So just wanted your thoughts on those.
Right. If I may comment on the second one, those boulders at the base of the steps, I don't know if it's 10th or 12th or something, that was exposed from the January storms. So I believe we tried to cover them up at some locations, but other locations it was just required too much sand. But we're continuing to monitor it. The sand level is still not back to where it was before January, so we have maybe a year to go.
Thanks for your questions, Maria. Ms. Lloyd?
Thank you very much. My name's Cindy Lloyd. In regards to Director Harari's comments about the erosion in Mission Trail Nature Preserve from bicycles, I just want to comment that it has been an ongoing problem for many years, and some of the trails needed to be rerouted plus protected with fences. So I just want to encourage you to do what you can to see if that problem can be mitigated. Thanks, Bob. I'm Director Harari.
Okay, anyone else? Looks like, Dale, you took off your...
Yeah, I've got a comment. Good report, Bob. It's very exciting, the grant from the Coastal Commission, and certainly if you need any help from anybody, we're willing to help, because that's a big deal, because as you said, it's going to be a lot of money to fix that, and it needs to be fixed. I think the other question, the other thing I wanted to tell you is, after a long process, and it's not because of the city, it just took a while for us to figure out what to do, we finally installed the signs inside the marquees on the scenic pathway, and you guys should all go out and check it out. I think Shirley did a wonderful job. They're going to last for a long time, and it's a nice, clean, simple look, and I think you'll like them. So thanks to Shirley for putting in that effort. And finally, Bob, can you explain to us in a minute or two, I know it's probably hard, what's going on with the water that's going down on the beach, because some of it's causing the beach stairways to be closed, and it's just sort of a mess, and it's complicated from the construction site just south of Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Dale. There is a lot going on. There is an underground stream on the construction site. I don't know if we need to call out who the owner is. There is an underground stream that was feeding this cistern underneath the Del Mar parking lot, which was where captured water that served as a municipal water supplier to the city in the Del Mar parking lot. Unbeknownst to the developer, when they excavated the old house, they ran into a stream. The stream is an environmental, building, planning, public works. We're all very much aware of it. We've met, in fact, we had 12 people in a room yesterday with a developer and a civil engineer. They're going to get a hydrogeologist. It's a unique problem. We have an agreement with the developer to make us whole, to restore the underground stream and to plumb it back to essentially the way it was, if that's possible. So yes, it is a mess. They're taking water samples. They have to. They're submitting that to environmental, who submits it to the Water Quality Control Board. So everything is. It was unexpected. I think the mitigation measures are in place to minimize the damage for all concerned, and we have a path moving forward, although we're not there yet.
Just if I might add, I measured how much water is going through there yesterday with a 2-gallon bucket, and it's minimum, because they were working down there with tractors, so it probably was reducing the flow. Minimum 400,000 gallons a month is going through that right now.
20,000 gallons a day.
Yeah.
A lot.
So was that the spring that was feeding the cisterns down at Del Mar? That was
Right.
That is the spring.
Right. We believe it's the same spring that goes near the basement of the Park Bench Library. So as this channels its way down.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't look like there's any additional comments
Was
from
there any
the
hydrogeologists that applied for the?
Go back to our list. Now let's reopen that. With that, future agenda items. Future agenda items.
We have one, Commissioner Sowers and I wanted to follow up on the request to do a field trip to the beach, and we would like to propose a special meeting to meet at the beach and invite the person that presented the last time, where they were showing us all the areas of issue. And so we would, it would be great if we could set a date, and I could just throw out Thursday, July 20th, which would be the Thursday after our next commission meeting in the morning. And if there's a different date, that would work great, but I think we talked about setting aside maybe 2.5 hours to walk the beach, to view all the sites that were in the report, and then to allow an opportunity to come back here for any discussion, and invite anybody from the public that would like to join.
Okay, thanks. Any other future agenda items? Doesn't look like it. Then with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
See you guys. Great meeting.
Thank you, Bill.